We're going to read The Wizard in the Tree. I want to point out that this chapter takes place in 1894 in Barcelona, whereas the chapter we just read, where Bailey was looking for Poppet, that chapter had fast forwarded all the way to 1902. So this Wizard in the Tree chapter is going back in time about 16 years, 18 years. I don't know. I'm not a math teacher. But what I wanted to say is that this chapter is actually kind of hard to understand. It's very mysterious. And the first time that I read it, I couldn't really figure out how it connected to the rest of the book. You may have predictions about how it connects. Hang on to those predictions, and as we get deeper into the book, you'll see if your predictions were correct or not. All right, so here we go with The Wizard in the Tree. The rooms hidden behind the multitude of tents in Le Cirque de Rêve are a stark contrast to the black and white of the circus, alive with color, warm with glowing amber lamps. The space kept by the Murray twins is particularly vivid, a kaleidoscope of color burning with carmine and coral and canary, so much so that the entire room often appears to be on fire, dotted with fluffy kittens dark as soot and bright as sparks. It is occasionally suggested that the twins should be sent to boarding school to receive a proper education, but their parents insist that they learn more from living with such a diverse company and traveling the globe than they would confined by schoolrooms and books. The twins remain perfectly pleased with the arrangement, receiving irregular lessons on innumerable subjects and reading every book they can get their hands on. Piles of them often ending up in the wrought iron cradle that they would not part with after it was outgrown. They know every inch of the circus, moving from color to black and white with ease, equally comfortable in both. Tonight they sit in a striped tent beneath a rather large tree, its branches black and bare of leaves. Okay, so we just got to see a little bit of backstage, which is where all the circus performers live. We know that it's very colorful and bright back there. My guess is that the circus performers get tired of the monotony of the black and white, and that's why they make their own living spaces so bright and colorful. And then it's also kind of important to note that Poppet and Widget have all these little kittens running around in their room. Some of them are black and some of them are white with not a whole lot of color in between the two. And the reason that this is, in my opinion, is because Poppet is always dressed in white. So my guess is that the Snow White kittens belong to Poppet. And then we know that Widget is always dressed in black. And so I think that the black kittens correspond to him. All right, so they are sitting in a tent with a large black tree that doesn't have any leaves on it. If you're paying attention to the past chapters, you should be able to identify this black tree as the wishing tree. Okay, so the twins are in there right now, and we're going to find out that Widget actually has a pretty cool skill that we didn't know about so far, which is that he can tell beautiful stories. Okay, so it's really late at night. It's kind of like after hours for the circus. And Bailey asks Widget to tell him a story, and that's where this story comes from. At this late hour, there are no patrons lingering in this particular tent, and it is unlikely that they or that any other visitors to the circus will stumble upon it in the remaining hours before dawn. The Murray twins lean against the massive trunk, sipping steaming cups of mulled cider. They have finished with their performances for the evening, and the remaining hours before dawn are theirs to spend as they please. Do you want to read tonight? Widget asks his sister. We could take a walk. It's not that cold. He pulls a pocket watch from his coat to check the time. It's not that late either, he adds, though their definition of late is what many would consider quite early. Okay, so it's late. Mostly everybody has left the circus. Probably if we have anyone left there, it probably is like the reviewers and things like that. And they're just trying to figure out what to do with the rest of their time. Poppet bites her lip in thought for a moment before answering. No, she says. Last time everything was all red and confusing. I think maybe I should wait a bit before I try again. Red and confusing? Poppet nods. It was a bunch of things overlapping, she explains. Fire and something red, but not at the same time. A man without a shadow, a feeling like everything was unraveling or tangling the way the kittens pull yarn into knots and you can't find the beginning or the end anymore. Okay, remember that Poppet's kind of her magical power is that she can see in the stars. And so Widget just asked her, hey, Poppet, do you want to go read the stars right now? And she says, no, the last time I did it was so scary and confusing. And she's describing all these different things. She says a bunch of things overlapping, fire, something red, but not at the same time, a man without a shadow. You might be able to figure out who that is, a feeling like everything was unraveling or tangling. Okay, so everything's crazy in her vision. And she says because of this, she kind of wants to wait before she tries to read the stars again. It scared her. Did you tell Celia about it? Widget asks. Not yet, Poppet says. I don't like to tell her things that don't make any sense. Most times, things make sense eventually. That's true, Widget said. Oh, and another thing, Poppet says. We're going to have company. That was in there somewhere, too. I don't know if it was before or after the other things or sometimes in between. Can you see who it is? Widget asks. No, Poppet answers simply. Widget is not surprised. What was the red something? He asks. Could you tell? Poppet closes her eyes, remembering. It looks like paint, she says. Widget turns to look at her. Paint? He asks. Like spilled paint on the ground, Poppet answers. She closes her eyes again, but then opens them quickly. Dark red. It's all sort of jumbled, and I don't really like the red bit. When I saw it, it hurt my head. The company part is nicer. Company would be nice, Widget says. Do you know when? Poppet shakes her head. Some of it feels soon. The rest of it feels far away. They sit quietly, sipping their cider for a bit, leaning against the trunk of the tree. Okay, so the dark red that looks like paint spilled on the ground. I bet you can figure out what that is. She does say that she can see that they're going to have company. Maybe this is going to be when Bailey like meets up with them, but remember that the Bailey chapter was like 18 years ago. So wait, I'm sorry. This chapter is a flashback from 18 years prior. So if it is Bailey that they're going to meet, then Puppet had this vision or this premonition 18 years before Bailey even shows up. Okay, so that's kind of weird. Unless her premonition is about Bailey entering the circus on a dare, that one time that he did that. But in any case, it seems like she's referring to Bailey. Tell me a story, please, Poppet says after a while. What kind of a story? Widget asks. He always asks her, gives her an opportunity to make a request, even if he has one in mind already. Only preferred or special audiences receive such treatment. A story about a tree, Poppet says, looking through the twisting black branches above them. Widget pauses before he starts, letting the tent and the tree settle into silent prologue while Poppet waits patiently. Okay, this is the story of the wizard in the tree. See if you can connect it to anything else in the story. Secrets have power, Widget begins, and that power diminishes when they are shared, so they are best kept and kept well. Sharing secrets, real secrets, important ones with even one other person will change them. Writing them down is worse because who can tell how many eyes might see them inscribed on paper, no matter how careful you might be with it. So it's really best to keep your secrets when you have them, for their own good as well as yours. This is, in part, why there is less magic in the world today. Magic is secret, and secrets are magic after all, and years upon years of teaching and sharing magic, and worse, writing it down in fancy books that get all dusty with age has lessened it, removed its power bit by bit. It was inevitable, perhaps, but not unavoidable. Everyone makes mistakes. The greatest wizard in history made the mistake of sharing his secrets, And his secrets were both magic and important, so it was a rather serious mistake. He told them to a girl. She was young and clever and beautiful. Poppet snorts into her cup. Widget stops. I'm sorry, she says. Go on, please, Widge. So Poppet thinks the part about the beautiful girl, she thinks that's like cheesy, so she laughs at him. She was young and clever and beautiful, Widget continues, because if the girl had not been beautiful and clever, she would have been easier to resist, and then there would be no story at all. The Wizard was old and quite clever himself, of course, and he had gone a very, very long time without telling his secrets to anyone at all. Maybe over the years he had forgotten about the importance of keeping them, or maybe he was distracted by her youth or beauty or cleverness. Maybe he was just tired, or maybe he'd had too much wine and didn't realize what he was doing. Whatever the circumstances, he told his deepest secrets to the girl, the hidden keys to all his magic. And when the secrets had passed from wizard to girl, they lost bits of their power, the way cats lose bits of fur when you pet them thoroughly. But they were still potent and effective and magical, and the girl used them against the wizard. She tricked him so that she could take his secrets and make them her own. She did not particularly care about keeping them. She probably wrote them down somewhere as well. The wizard himself is trapped in a huge old oak tree, a tree like this one, and the magic she used to do so was strong, since it was the wizard's own magic, ancient and powerful, and he could not undo it. Okay, so the story so far for the wizard in the tree is that there's this really, really magical wizard, and he's been doing his magic for a really, really long time. He meets a girl who is young and beautiful and clever, and he gives her all of his secrets and all of his magic. The girl uses his own magic to trap the original wizard into the tree. Okay, so now the wizard is in the tree. She has his magic to do what she wants with it. She left him there, and he could not be rescued since no one else knew he was inside the tree. He was not dead, though. The girl might have killed him if she could, after she had coerced his secrets out of him, but she could not kill him with his own magic, though maybe she didn't want to at all. She was more concerned with power than with him, but she might have cared about him a little, enough to want to leave him with his life in a way. She settled for trapping him, and to her mind it served the same purpose, though really she did not succeed quite as well as she liked to think. She was careless in keeping her new magic secret. She flaunted it and generally did not take very good care of it. Its power faded eventually, and so did she. The wizard, on the other hand, became part of the tree, and the tree thrived and grew, its branches spreading up to the sky and its roots reaching farther into the earth. He was part of the leaves and the bark and the sap, and part of the acorns that were carried away by squirrels to become new oak trees in other places. And when those trees grew, he was in those branches and leaves and roots as well. So, by losing his secrets, the wizard gained immortality. His tree stood long after the clever young girl was old and no longer beautiful, and in a way, he became greater and stronger than he had ever been before. Though, if he were given the chance to do it all over again, he likely would have been more careful with his secrets. As Widget finishes, the tent settles into silence again, but the tree feels more alive than it had before he had started. Okay, so basically, because the wizard is trapped in the tree, he becomes part of the sap and the roots and the leaves and even the acorns that get carried away and planted to become new trees. And so he's part of all the new trees that the acorns plant as well. And in this way, he far outlasts the beautiful, clever young girl because she grows old and she's no longer pretty and she's no longer powerful, but he is growing more powerful with each new tree that gets planted. Okay, so that's kind of like I don't know. Like that is the story of the Wizard of the in the Tree. We kind of don't know exactly how it fits in yet. I'm sure you saw some similarities in there, but we'll keep finding out as we go on. Thank you, Poppet says. That was a good one. Kind of sad though, but kind of not at the same time. You're welcome, Widget says. He takes a sip of his cider, now more warm than hot. He holds his cup in his hands and brings it to eye level, staring at it until a soft curl of steam rises from the surface. Do mine too, please, Poppet says, holding out her cup. I can never do it right. Well, I can never levitate anything right, so we're even, Widget says. But he takes her cup without complaint and concentrates until it too is steaming and hot. This is just like these last little paragraphs in this chapter kind of just show us that Celia actually has been teaching them magic and that they are both good at it, but they're good at like different things. So Widget has this thing where he can turn their kind of like lukewarm cider and he can turn it hot again. And Poppet is better at levitating things. So they are learning magic and they are getting good at it. He moves to hand it back to her, and it floats from his hand to hers, the surface of the cider wavering with the motion, but otherwise moving as smoothly as if it were sliding across the table. Show off, Widget says. They sit sipping their newly warmed cider, looking up at the twisting black branches reaching toward the top of the tent. Widge? Poppet asks after a long silence. Yes. Is it not that bad to be trapped somewhere then? Depending on where you're trapped? I suppose it depends on how much you like the place you're trapped in, Widget says. And how much you like whoever you're stuck there with, Poppet adds, kicking his black boot with her white one. Her brother laughs, and the sound echoes throughout the tent, carried over the branches that are covered in candles, each flame flickering and white. Okay, so Poppet makes the comment that it's not so bad to be trapped somewhere if you like where you're trapped and if you like the people you're trapped with. Kind of relates to being quarantined in the house with your family right now. Depends on how much you like them to see if you're having an okay time. So, anywho, that is the Wizard in the Tree story, and I'll have you guys draw your own conclusions from it. All right.